First off, the slides will not sync with my words. It's just on a roll, but it's a presentation that I do when I visit churches and other events such as this. So you can see what's going on at the Friendship House visually while I share with you some thoughts. This is actually titled Loving Internationals Where They Are, Who They Are. I'm giving this keynote address actually on Thursday morning at the International Student Ministry, Inc. Equipping Conference. It's in Columbia, Missouri, so tomorrow morning I'm deadheading. If anybody's on their way to St. Louis, needs a ride, I'll drop you off as I go blowing by if you want that. But I'm heading there tomorrow. I'm a part of the planning committee for that International Student Ministry organization. So I'm double dipping. I actually used this also as well yesterday. A new area church, Messiah Lutheran Church, they probably don't like to be called the other Lutheran Church in Holt, but the Holt West Side Church invited me to come down. They haven't really been involved in supporting us, and they had me involved because they talked about world missions and world ministry and how they can get involved, and they said, you know what, we have that right here in mid-Michigan, so we're going to invite Dan to come, and I actually was part of the sermon, which is a first for me. Usually I get the announcements at the end of the service and I have to hustle through so they can get their coffee and donuts. A little bit about me. I am a member here, been here 29 years this month. Been semi-retired to be the executive director at the Friendship House just about 3 years ago and left corporate America to be the new steward, I like to think, of the ministry at the Friendship House. The ministry itself is over 30 years old. It was started in a little office downstairs here by Pastor Carl Selly, who, again, was tasked as a missionary to work with international students here at Michigan State University. After Carl moved on to his next stop in his journey, there was enough momentum and activity here that a number of area individuals and churches supported the ministry, acquired the house, I think almost 30 years ago, and the ministry has been active in going there ever since. We are a separate, standalone 501c3 nonprofit. We don't get any formal funds on a regular basis from district synod, but we are supported by primarily area Lutheran churches, but and area individuals, both near and far. Some I will say not necessarily Lutheran. I don't check their Lutheran card at the door. We do follow MSU's academic calendar, so we are pretty much in business 12 months out of the year because MSU is in business pretty much 12 months out of the year. And we've evolved to the point where we work primarily with the graduate students, the masters, PhDs, visiting scholars, postdoc if they're coming here to work in a postdoctorate capacity, and their families. And we really are, and I didn't realize this, even though I was obviously aware of it being a member here, I didn't really realize it, but we really are a family ministry. Yes, many of the people who are on campus come and source us and use us as a resource, but very often it's their family members, their spouses, who come and need the additional assistance to help navigate living here. Our approach to international student ministry is pretty simple. Love God with our heart, soul, and mind. Love our neighbors as ourselves. We treat everyone with respect as human beings, regardless of their religious background, country affiliation, and so forth. My one expectation is that everyone does the same. I've been thankful so far that I haven't had someone, say, from Taiwan come in and sit next to someone from mainland China, and suddenly they look at each other and say, we don't get along. Because I would say, here, you either get along or there's a door, don't let it hit you in the back on the way out. Because we respect everyone here. And again, I give thanks that I haven't had to have that conversation yet. So what does that look like? I use community a lot. We use community a lot at the Friendship House. Our primary support is in providing a place to gather both in person and virtual for English as second language, ESL, classes, which include Bible studies, but aren't limited by any stretch to that. Last fall, I taught a class on the rules to American football because many of the internationals are like, what is that stadium? And you say, oh, that's where they play football. No, not your football, our football. Your football, they played the little smaller one back along the river. So I had a class in teaching the rules to American football. And that one I did online. I did in the evening by Zoom only. And I actually had one of our community members named Zara. She's in Iran. She attended that class. And I don't think she really cared that much about American football, and I'll get to why I think it connected with her in a minute. But you know what time it is at 7 o'clock at our time in Iran? 3:30 in the morning. She was up because she wanted to be connected and a part of that community. We had someone teach rules to ice hockey. And we took a group, and I think there'd be a picture or two slide by of Munn Arena, our hockey arena. And I made the one mistake I made is we went to the very last home game against Notre Dame, and the Spartans were playing good hockey, and they were getting ready for Big Ten. And I got 15 tickets like 3 months in advance. They go, oh yeah, we'll have more. When 30 people signed up, I'm like, ooh, let me call. Nope, Dan, sorry, we are sold out. So this fall, we're gonna go to a hockey game. And I'll probably pick the exhibition game against the U18 team or whoever they play in exhibition. And I think I got a better shot of getting at least 30 people to go. By the way, each semester I mentioned, we have over 100 students sign up for register for our community. We charge them $25 per semester, and that gives them, and that's actually, we bumped it this year because of inflation. It was $20 until the summer semester, but we charge them $25, and that gives them access to everything that we do. The other main thing that we do is we recruit conversation partners, English language speakers who I can pair up one-on-one or maybe in a small group setting. Sometimes I've actually found pairing up couples with couples. I'll get a husband and wife and say, yes, we'd love to be a partner. I've got an international couple that would love to have a partnership as a married couples. That's an ongoing process, and a lot of my time recruiting for that, because many of my English speakers, they'll get partnered with someone and their international goes back home. And I'm like, oh, so you're ready for a new partner? No, I'm still partners with Cindy in Colombia. We're close. We're connected. So I'd love to. If that ever goes away, so I got to find another batch of internationals or English speakers to pair with the internationals that are on the waiting list. We do other things to help people. I have a bike guy, and if anybody knows, cars became very expensive, and used cars especially very hard to find. And so I got a Gary, he's my bike guy. He's been wonderful. He's been a true blessing where he will source and fix bikes and source bikes for me, and he hasn't charged me a penny for all the work that he's done on the dozens of bikes that I've given out. And unfortunately, on this campus, maybe on some of your campuses, bikes tend to go missing, even from the front of an apartment or a dorm. And so I've had a few students where I've had to source a second or third bike for them. We do a lot of field trips. Again, you'll see pictures of some of those up there. Last year we went to Henry Ford Museum, Greenfield Village down in Dearborn. If you've never been there, I highly recommend it. Took a bunch, about 30 people went to Frankenmuth. Taste of German Bavarian life in Michigan, and Bronner's Christmas store. Again, if you haven't been there, that's an experience. You may want to try that. Mentioned that hockey games. I'm going to take a group, I think, fireworks night at our local minor league baseball team. We go berry picking, apple picking, whatever is in season that we can go pick at a local farm, we will go take them. And then we do holiday special gatherings. This past Christmas was the first time since I started that we were actually able to put a Christmas tree up. And the interesting story about that is I had people sign up. We're going to have a decorating party, and I had a group of 4 or 5 Chinese women, young ladies. all graduate students, young ladies. "Oh, we can't be there at noon because we got to be on campus. But can we come early?" Sure. And this is an old school Christmas tree where the color-coded tips go into the, worn out wood, whatever post, and they get smaller as they go up, right? Those girls, they attacked it. Those ladies, they just were on it and doing it, and I just stood back and said, okay. And they were so proud. They were so happy. And then after they left, next wave came, and before I knew it, there was decorations and stockings hung with care. It was wonderful. So, how does this bring people to Jesus, you might ask? I've learned that it's basically being an everyday missionary starts with human need. If my thought as a director, or if our thought, and I convey this to our teachers and our volunteers, if our thought is, I have to convert them, I have to bring them to Jesus, whatever their perception of those words are in their head, I'm not asking people to do that because that's not how I'm approaching it. I personally have never been comfortable in bringing people to church. I think Kurt and Dave and others here would say, Dan does a great job when they're in the door. I'm very welcoming. And I've tried to live that life in my corporate life. But, I didn't really invite a lot of people to come to church. And so I see it as an everyday, and that would be my recommendation, I think, to campus ministry here. We used to do Sunday suppers here because kids weren't fed on campus. They let the staff have Sunday afternoons off, so kids weren't fed on campus. And so for decades, we had Sunday suppers here, and the amount of students who came was overwhelming, and that was an every Sunday evening event. Now, living centers on campus here at Michigan State, you can get sushi to everything you can imagine, 7 days a week, almost 24/7 in some cases. Those kids they didn't have a human need to get on the church bus or come across campus now on Sunday night to get fed because where they were living. So think about that even if you're dealing with undergrads, and I think about that when I'm dealing with internationals. What is the human need? And I try to focus on that first, because I think if I do that, then I'll say the person whose job it is, I see it as this person's job to bring people to Jesus, has a shot. Anybody know who that is? The Holy Spirit. Because if I'm overlooking their human need and focusing on, would you like a Bible? No, dude, I gotta find a way to get to campus. I can't afford a car. My spouse needs to learn English because she's so afraid to leave the apartment, or he's so afraid to leave the apartment because he doesn't know how to go to Meijer to buy groceries and stuff. But can I give you a Bible? Do you want to know Jesus? I don't think I'm going to be very successful. And I don't think they'll come back to the Friendship House. So we really focus on loving God with our heart, soul, and mind again, and loving our neighbors as ourselves. We join Jesus, in other words, on his mission every day of caring for the individual and what their needs are. And it's amazing. I don't know if this qualifies for getting a t-shirt, and I got more t-shirts I know what to do with, but I see, by doing that, focusing on that, I see every day. I have been so rewarded that I didn't expect. I fully thought I'm going to be serving others. The amount of love and compassion and care that's come back to me has been overwhelming. I'm less than a minute, Kurt, I underestimated on this, but I'm almost done. I had a young lady from Persia, because she doesn't claim Iran. You might guess why. Lately. I was making coffee. Her husband's on campus. He dropped her off. She's really struggled. She wants to speak English better than me because I don't speak it all that great after almost 65 years. As I was making coffee, she said, Dan, I just want you to know, God loves you for what you're doing here. And she didn't say, your God, my God. God loves you for what you're doing here. How can you not feel the Holy Spirit at work in that situation? How does that woman in Iran, who's probably never going to get here, she's only here in our community because her best friend, who, by the way, got baptized here while she's been here, when her best friend who's here said, you need to connect with this community because I know you're searching and you need support. And Zara found us and joins us. And when she'll join us whenever now the internet out of Iran lets her join at all hours of the day and night. Some of the folks here have met Min. Min is a Chinese mom of a PhD student. She came here last fall to care for her son, maybe a little over motherly. No judgment here. But Min came and barely spoke English. She had to go back to China or she'd still be here. This morning we had a class, and I started the class on Zoom. Min was the first one to log in. She was there. And if Min is gone, I've been making the rounds this spring at visiting churches, the community around here that supports us. Min has been to every one of those church visits. Hardly understands English. She will sit in our dining room with her phone when we don't have class, listening, practicing, recording, getting the next day's class information so she can learn. And if you ask Min, this is my home. We're trying to get things back to where we're back to normal pre-pandemic. Internationals would meet at Fridays and share recipes and cook. I got a wad of money left over from all the money they collected. I'm not sure what to do with it yet because I'm waiting to get them back to cooking, so it's locked in the cabinet. I said, let's do that. How about we just try it and let's do this? Min said, I'll cook. Okay, she's going to share a Chinese meal, a recipe with us. 12 courses later, we were all full. And we had about 25 people who came that Friday to the meal and broke bread and loved each other. This is usually where if I'm talking to a church, I say, and here's how you can get involved. It is a wonderful experience. And I will say, as you're looking, whether it's at undergrad ministry, or if you do have internationals, for me, because we've been doing it for so long, it's easier for me to kind of know where we should be looking and doing. There's still some things that we need to get back to. But I'm always surprised when someone says, have we thought about doing this? No, but let's do it. Someone's asked me about the rules of American football. Someone said ice hockey. And Dave and Kurt and James know, and Diane know, there's a sporting event, I'm pretty much probably going to be there if it's on campus and I got a chance to go. And I want to share that with the people who are here. But I've kept Zoom open and virtual because the Zaras of the world and the other international men who's now back in China for the next year until she can come back, I don't want to turn that connection off to them. And it's just, so if you've got technology, highly recommend you look at how you can use that. But think about the human need. What do the undergrads need? It's probably different than the internationals. It's probably different than the graduate student internationals if you're wanting to reach out and touch them. But think about their need and how you as a campus ministry can fill that. Well, we'll end on that slide. Any questions real quick? Again, I shot past my time. Sorry, Kurt. Any questions? This is speculation because I've only been directly involved for just about 3 years. I think the undergrads on the international side, and I think that's what's challenging about campus ministry to undergrads in general, is that their needs on campus are well taken care of. So the internationals that have come, undergrads who have come to MSU, for the most part, their needs are pretty well taken care of. And we haven't seen it so much post-pandemic, but pre-pandemic, there were more Bentleys, high-end Mercedes, you pick a high-end sports car, luxury car. They were cruising around campus, cruising around mid-Michigan, East Lansing, and invariably it was a young international undergrad student who was driving that car. I don't think they had a need, their needs for us, we weren't really going to connect and fill them. They probably didn't need English. Most of the people who come who are on campus, they've had more exposure and so forth to English already. So for us to fill that need is not so much. But because so many of the graduate students who come, they may speak English pretty well or passable because they have to navigate on campus. It's their spouses who, have a lot more free time and are searching for assistance with English, but they're also searching for a community to connect with people. No, and it's interesting because then, like my visit to Messiah Lutheran yesterday, and I invited, it wasn't mandatory for anybody to come, but I invited, said, this is a new church to us, they're looking into supporting us. Have a young Korean husband and wife, and they brought the kids. They came because they wanted to support us, but it's the husband who's on campus, but he's now touched, and both of them now have been coming to Bible studies together, and he's making it work. So I think if we're making the positive impact on that spouse, it does carry over. Another Korean couple, they don't have any kids. I really struggle with the Korean names, and my executive assistant is Korean, so she gives me a lot of grief, Jin Suk. But I just call this one young lady JK, because I really butcher her name, and she let me know about it. So JK this morning came in, and her husband was there with her, and I hadn't really met him before. But he came, he sat down in the dining room and was working on probably the finance program. But then they were going straight from the Friendship House, they were taking a tour of the state capitol. They wanted to get a little tourism in. But that's how we're connecting with them. And then, again, a lot of our events inviting, families to come when people are leaving. We really try to make a big deal and gather on the Friday before they leave and have food, and spouses and the kids come. And it was really wonderful. We had Chinari's from India. She brought her two boys, and she's come to a lot of the church services. Chinari brought the two boys to the service yesterday, and it was just amazing to see the people at Messiah, their eyes just light up like, ooh, kids, you have children, there's families. Yeah. Not a bunch of just people with their nose in a book studying and stuff. These are, they're humans, they need it. And I had an elderly woman come up because I talked about the bikes. She says, I got at least 4 bikes in my garage, maybe more. But I don't know how to get them to you. I said, I got a truck. We will get them, I will pick them up. Just don't call me next week because I'm going to be traveling a little bit, but, I said, you want to send me? I don't have an email. Okay. Here's the phone number. She underlined it on my card. I'll call you. But, they just lit up when they saw the families come in because I think their expectation was, oh, there'll be some students here. And wait, you got families coming? Yeah. So yesterday was a wonderful day.